Hey everyone, this is Ricky with Spoiler Force Podcast, courtesy of Popluck Podcast. You can find more episodes of Spoiler Force Podcast on Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, YouTube, or on Facebook at facebook.com/popluckpodcast.
Spoiler Force Podcast! I choose you!
It's a LP
Alright, so this is episode 20 of Spoiler Force Podcast. Happy Batman Day to you guys. It's been a long day, really, but I'm surprised. Today was an amazing day. I went to Cincinnati Comic Expo today in Cincinnati, Ohio. For those who have been listening to my podcast, know that this is a trilogy of my time in Cincinnati for the weekend. I had an amazing time. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the followers and everyone who's the new followers as well, and everyone who shared my recent post, especially with the announcements of my new guest. Thank you so much for participating in that. I mean, it means a lot to me to know that you guys are actually tuning into my content. Thank you. I'm speechless at this point because besides that too, and meeting who I met today at the con, it just I'm just so overwhelmed with appreciation, And let me just get started here really quick. This morning I got up. I settled my dispute with the hotel. Overall, the experience at the hotel has been pretty simple because I put the do not disturb sign on my door, so no one's been going in and out of my room. It's pretty basic, really. I just I don't do much in the hotel room. I just chill here and just watch like South Park and watch How I Met Your Mother. But anyways, I start off the day with that, and I finally settled this dispute. Now, what sucks still is that the money wasn't refunded immediately, but it is refunded. So hopefully by Monday morning I get that money back. It fucking sucks that I can't get that money because that money was supposed to be used for this weekend. But thank God that I had just enough to spend and to use. The extra money that I had, I really wanted Ben McKenzie, and I really wanted Marina. It's weird how they pronounce it. I think it's really pronounced Marina, but people call it Morena. But Marina Baccarin, I wanted her and, again, her husband, Ben McKenzie, to do audio shout-outs to my podcast. I was willing to drop $80 for it, but their rep or whoever was working at their table said no. And it sucked that they didn't have a combo, so you had to buy the autograph and selfie or the photo with them at their booth separate, which I don't mind. I mean, they have great resumes for their work, and especially Morena. She was in Deadpool, Firefly, Gotham. Also, Ben McKenzie was in Gotham. He played the lead, Jim Gordon. He was in the OC. He actually had a print of his younger self from the OC with the long hair and all that. It was pretty cool to see that. And what's wild is that his line was not busy. Him and his wife, both of their booths were next to each other, and Ben McKenzie's line was very short. I got done within less than 10 minutes. Morena Baccarin, her line, I waited about 30 minutes or so because she was still doing photo ops. So in total, I waited for about almost an hour and 15 minutes or so. But the line moved pretty quickly because people were doing group photos and some people were only doing autographs. So it was very quick. Let me just back up a little bit here too, because let me just get to when I first get to the con. After settling my dispute with the hotel, I get some Red Bull so I can stay awake, because last night I only had 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I was literally up all night just editing and uploading my first part of the podcast, and I had a really hard time sleeping too. I probably miss my bed the most. And the bed in the hotel, it's too fucking soft. I feel like I was sinking in the bed, and then like the blanket is really big, so it's either you're gonna get really hot or you take off the blanket, you get really cold. So there's no in between of that. So I was like super uncomfortable. So and plus I was kind of like scared. For those of you who've never seen the movie Room 1408, I think that's the movie, where like it was fucking like, you know, John Cusack's character was put to the test with all this freaky shit. Like all the weird shit was like running through my mind, and I'm like, fuck, I can't sleep now. Yeah, but I think plus I think it was just due to the stress and anxiety from before earlier that day yesterday too. But now I'm happy, man. I'm settled, I'm happy, you could say I'm really content right now. It's most likely because that I met Ben McKenzie and Marina Baccarin, and also I met Bernard Hill, who played King Theoden in Lord of the Rings. I mentioned that I went to his panel yesterday in the first part of the of my trilogy here, but I met him at his booth today, and he's very soft-spoken, and you know, it's funny because he didn't really get, I guess, the slang we use over here in the States, right? So, and when I had him write out the autograph for me, I didn't have him personalize it, but I had him write death. And the Return of the King, after he hits the spears with his sword, he does like the speech. He does the speech to get his men hyped, and he's like, death, death. And so I had him like write out death, the word death. Not death, but death, like as in you're dying or dead. But then I was like, can you write that all in caps, please? He goes, and he was so lost because I don't think he understood what caps meant. So I was like, oh shit, Mr. Hill, can you write that in capital letters? And he goes, oh, your lingo in the States here kind of weird. And I can't really imitate that accent. I still can't nail what that accent is. I think it's Swedish, but not really. But he was very nice, and I asked him about how when he was playing in the second part of the Lord of the Rings, when he was possessed by Saruman, I asked him, did you feel like you were possessed, or did you feel like he was sick? How did you get your mental state into that form of the old man? He goes, well, I wasn't really an old man because I was possessed, but I wasn't possessed either. So I put it into terms where it seemed like I was really sick or poisoned. So I guess the key word was poisoned, and that makes sense too, because like his mind was all fucked up from from Saruman and the brainwashing of Wormtongue. And and fun fact, if you haven't checked out the actually I don't think I even uploaded that video yet. Sometime soon I'm gonna upload the panel of Bernard Hill. I just haven't gotten to it yet, but he mentions that the actor for Wormtongue, he actually has a very good he portrays, and what the fuck, man, someone got caught. You hear those sirens, man? It's like fucking loud. Holy shit. Anyway, the actor for Wormtongue, he set himself up as the English speaking character, and when he spoke in his regular voice, Bernard Hill was completely lost. He's like, why are you doing that terrible American accent? And then the actor for Wormtongue was like, this is how I speak. Let me just look up his name, that way you don't get confused. Wormtongue actor. I'm actually typing on the laptop here. Again, this is my sister's laptop, so hopefully I can get one by the end of the year. Let's see, Brad Dourif. Brad Dourif, Dourif. Yeah, he's actually an American actor, and he played off the whole like English accent very, very well. I'm not too sure if I recorded that part in Bernard Hill's panel, because I only recorded about like 35 minutes, and he still did like an additional 10, almost 15 minutes after I stopped recording. I was being spacious of the memory of my phone, because again, my podcast, you may think that I'm using the laptop for that, but no, actually my podcast is through my phone, my smartphone. And if any of you people want to do like a podcast that's not too cheap, but like kind of just start off, your smartphone is the best way to start. Because you can automatically just buy all the accessories and you kind of just start there. Now, I would recommend a laptop though, because there's more space and you can do more of the softwares and audio editing versus the phone and the apps. But again, tangent here. If you do want to do a podcast through your phone and you have an iPhone at least, the app I used is the Hokusai #2. I paid about $8 for the app and has like presetting. It has like preset sounds and you can kind of like adjust the bass, and it's pretty unique to use. I haven't really learned how to use every single like manipulation of the audio. I just use the preset stuff, so that's what I use for my app. But back to the Comic-Con. Yeah, after meeting Bernard Hill at the con, he he shook my hand, and I was really glad to meet this guy because this is a really rare occasion that he comes by and actually meets fans at cons. Also, the actor who plays the Witch King too, he was there. Like I didn't even know he played like 4 different parts in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. It's the same dude. He played the Uruk-hai, the one that killed Boromir in The Fellowship of the Ring, and then he played the one with the small hand in The Return of the King. The one that's like, the age of man is over. You know, that one. Or the one that we call the feminist. Is it the feminist orc? Because he is always saying the age of men is over, some stuff like that. It's a meme on Facebook. And then the actor also plays the Witch King, which kills, or he has his dragon or whatever kill Theoden. So he was there. I didn't get to meet him. I wasn't too I guess you could say fascinated with his work, but it was cool to see that another Lord of the Rings actor was there. He wasn't there Friday because of his he had like flight timing issues or delays. That's what it is. He had delays on Friday, so he actually would have been there Friday if he didn't have delays in Houston. And so pretty much the rest of the day, I kind of just walked around. It feels really awkward just being by myself at a con, especially that like one that's not near home. This is my very first time going to a Comic-Con by myself, like all by myself, like booking hotels, driving out here, doing all this by myself, and it's really like culture shocking, I guess, because I don't know the area, and you know my mind's racing all the time. Where like, what if someone's following? And I really thought that someone was following me, so I like held onto my my bag really tight because I had my money in my bag side pocket. So yeah, I was ready to throw hands at anyone that came by me. I was like, let's go. You know, I ain't scared, but really, I'm scared. Yeah, I kind of just walked around the con. I bought a Grandista Naruto and Sasuke statue. They're both $35. The Japanese dude was like really like itching to sell it to me, so I just bought it because I felt like he was gonna make me commit seppuku if I didn't buy it. And no offense to any Japanese listeners if I have any, but yeah, I bought him just out of fear, I guess. No, but I really wanted it too. I blew $70 within the first 30 minutes of being at the con. And also Cincinnati Comic Con was like the way how they structured things. Like any con that does photo ops and stuff, like for sure it's disappointing because they're never organized. But this convention, their VIPs was literally just entering early, like $100 to just enter early, and you get the big Batman Day bag, which is the cover for Detective Comics 1000, like the wraparound cover by Jim Lee. It's a really big bag. It's like a huge satchel, put it that way. But yeah, I didn't carry that around with me. It's too hectic. It's a great bag to put stuff in. I don't know where I'm going to put that in my room though, because my room's covered up with comics and Funko Pops. I went to the con early. I got there around like 9:45-ish. I'm kind of glad that I got the VIPs because waiting in line is something I don't want to do. And they had to wait in line until like 10 o'clock. So I got to walk around for a bit. And I got to check out like the artist alley. And I mean, there were very few artists that had Demon Slayer booths or Demon Slayer artworks at their booth. I was tempted to buy one. I have all their cards in my bag. I don't want to reach out for it, but I'm definitely interested in that. I'm just gonna hold on to their cards until like I have money to buy something. Like this one dude had a spray painting. He does commissions, but like some artist commissions are just way too expensive. So that's why I kind of stick with anime oils, because it's only $50 to get 2 8x10 canvases with black and white and minor paint. So again, check out anime oils as well. Thank you, Crystal. Some of the guys' work is good. It's just like I feel like I wouldn't drop money for it. It has to like really stick out to me, and I'm really picky with my art, because sometimes some of the artists just kind of repaste like a scene from the anime, and it's like that's not really art. You're just putting that on a metal sheet to make it shiny. Like I'm gonna use anime oils as an example. Like Crystal draws them by hand. She sees the photo, but she draws it by hand still, so it's still like her own technique to draw the character, and she puts her twist on it with oil paints and the canvas and whatnot. But like some of the other stuff is just complete copy and paste, so it's not worth like $20-$40 for something like that. You're better off buying prints from like Tony Santiago, who actually hand draws his work and colors them, but then just sells the prints. I was tempted to buy another one from them again, but I want to save my money too, and now that I have extra money to spend, I might buy something tomorrow, but I'm debating about it. But pretty much I walked around the convention handing out cards to cosplayers and stuff like that. So there were some really like if you follow Public Podcast on Facebook, you can see the posts I've been putting up on the Facebook page, and hopefully if you are listening and you're one of those cosplayers, please tag yourself if you have a Facebook page. That way I can follow you too. And if you're ever interested at all, I would like to have you on the podcast, like as well, just an over the phone podcast. We can do like a 25 to 30 minute interview, or just a conversation, very short. But it's up to you guys, and I'm still fairly new at this as well. Again, passing out cards to people at the convention was really fun. You can see that cosplayers like that idea. Instead of just people running up to them and taking photos of them and leaving, they kind of want their work pushed out there and have some sort of credit. So this is a great way to break the ice with cosplayers, really, and I'm kind of glad I bought cards to hand out. But there are some people that I met, they were kind of assholes about it, because there was this one lady, she kind of looked at my podcast card and read like spoiler for his podcast, and it wasn't like a giggle to where like, oh, that's cute. It was a giggle like, what the fuck's this shit? Like, I sensed that ignorance in them. So you know who you are, and fuck you. I'm not gonna let that get to me though. I mean, it did a little bit. Like, it got under my skin only because like you could have just not taken the card. If you're gonna take the card and like still try to talk shit, then fuck you. Like, I would rather have you go, oh hell no, man, slap. But I passed out a lot of cards today to cosplayers. I even gave 2 cards to Marina Baccarin at her booth. I was trying to get her and Ben McKenzie to shout out my podcast so I can use the audio, like how Veronica Taylor goes, "I choose you" on my podcast, but they didn't. And I don't know. I think Marina Baccarin, like, I wish I met them a little bit earlier that day, because she was so worn out. So you can tell, like, I don't know if it was irritation, but I mean, she still, met the fans and interacted with them. But I could tell that I think she wanted to leave because Ben McKenzie left first. But he was really cool though. When I spoke with him, we were talking about his fight scenes in season 2, where he fights in the elevator against the guy with the piano string. It's like he was trying to choke him out with that, and also he fought Flamingo, who was one of like the gangsters in Gotham, who was also a cannibal. And so Ben McKenzie was telling me that fight scene was actually a lot longer, but they had to really cut it down. And if you see, I don't think I posted this up on the Public Podcast page, but on my personal page I posted up me and him doing like a square off, like how UFC fighters do the standoff. And I wish I did. I should have been in the southpaw stance to make my face look better, but I'm orthodox, so I turned my head to the left, and you could just see my fat neck. But Ben McKenzie, that dude, he's pretty big for his size, and I think he can probably throw hands if he wanted to. Only very few actors that I see that I know for sure that they can throw hands. Definitely Ben McKenzie is one. And I can say Billy Zabka, the actor for Johnny Lawrence in Karate Kid. I can tell that dude can fight just based off his stance. You guys are going to hate me for this, but I don't think Stephen Amell can fight. I think he's strong. He's probably strong as shit, but I don't think he can fight. He doesn't convince me as someone who can fight. Because when me and Stephen Amell back at Heroes and Villains, we squared up, and he crouched down to get to my eye level, but he had his hands up like those old British boxers. I'm like, yeah, I don't think he could throw hands. No one throws hands that way. And if you do throw hands like an old British boxer and still win, let me know, because I would like to see that in action. It's more like I find that more comical now. If someone has their hands like that, where their fist is turned inward, so like their fist is turned inward, so their thumbs are facing them instead of like facing down, and like compact. When I met Morena Baccarin at her booth, because I went like back to back, because again their booths are right next to each other. Morena Baccarin, I went there, and I forgot that she was in How I Met Your Mother. She was the girl with the crazy eyes. My cousin David mentioned that to me on Facebook. I totally forgot about that. But I was so in awe of meeting them. Like the cast of Gotham is an actual cast of actors that I've like gone out of my way to meet. I regret not meeting the actor who plays Butch. He was there at Heroes and Villains when I met Stephen Amell and David Ramsey and Emily Bett. I should have met him instead. But anyways, yeah, I've met Cameron Bicondova before she shaved her head. When she was still like season 1, season 2, like how she looked. She was still young at Motor City Comic Con, which was the first time I went to Motor City Comic Con. And then I met David Mazouz at Heroes and Villains. I met Robin Lord Taylor at Motor City Comic Con as well. He was also at Heroes and Villains, and I saw them at their Gotham panel as well. And then today I met Ben McKenzie and Morena Baccarin. I know I'm like repeating this a lot because I'm so happy I met like these lead characters in that series, especially Ben McKenzie, because the way how he portrays Jim Gordon is like top notch. His voice as Jim Gordon kind of gets irritating a little bit, but overall the acting was great. He put a new spin on Jim Gordon to where like he's just younger. Everyone always sees Jim Gordon as the old experienced cop. I like the whole younger take on Jim Gordon, where he's like still learning, and then where he's like he has to make changes to be a better person and to make sacrifices in Gotham, knowing that Gotham City is never going to change. But yeah, I'm so happy that I've met them, and you can see if you see my photos on Facebook, I'm so happy. You can see that big old smile, even though like my teeth's kind of fucked up in a way. I was so genuinely happy when I met them, and that's pretty much it for the Comic Con today, or Comic Expo at Cincinnati Comic Expo, because I think the word Comic Con itself is copyrighted, so certain conventions can't even use Comic Con. They have to use Comic Convention, Expo. Yeah, so they have to kind of like word play a little bit differently. And so like when I was waiting in line for the photo ops, which was again hectic, I actually met this guy who was from England. I forgot what he said exactly. But he was like 75 miles away from London, and he had the accent, and I spoke like this. Like I can't imitate a good English accent, but he's like, I'm from London. I'm not exactly from London, but 75 miles from it. I still have my accent after living in the States in '94, and like he kind of just spoke like that. And the American accent sucks. I'm telling you guys right now. Like I told him that too. I was like, the English accent and any accent that's European that speaks English, there's like a flow to it. There's rhythm to it. American English is just flat. It's very boring. It's stale. It's rough. It's very aggressive, and I think that kind of speaks to how Americans are in the States too, with just how we speak to each other and how our accent is. We're very aggressive. We're straightforward. We're blunt. You know, it's not like where Russell Peters did it best, where he was saying like when Americans say cunt, it sounds mean. But then when like for example, like if an Irishman says cunt, it sounds more like cunt or cunt. So like it's soft. You know, like they say it differently than how we would say it in the States. Like I guess like the what word am I looking for? The intent of the word is way different. But yeah, I met the guy, and I actually handed out cards to some random people in line. Like I made friends with people in line, and it's like older people, and I was just giving them my cards. And I got called the podcast guy today. We had like 2 different people. It's like, hey, that's the podcast guy. So if you're listening and you know who you are that called me the podcast guy, thank you so much for listening to this episode too. And I hope that you continue to stay on board with my podcast as well. Now, let me get into some anime here, because today at the convention there was this line of Boku no Hero, or My Hero Academia cosplayers. And let me just say this before I get into my my review of, or my thoughts on the latest chapters of My Hero Academia. You can tell who is who by how they cosplay and how they know the characters. Like for example, you know that there's all the giddy young teenagers. Those are the anime watchers who watch everything in English dub. Like that's them. Like those giddy teenagers that are annoying. Like, oh my god, I love Deku. Like those, I know those kids. They watch, or I don't know those kids, but I know for a fact those kids, they watch English dub and they don't watch Japanese dub with English subtitles. Now the cosplayers, it's like there was one kid who had Shinzo's new costume from the manga, and I was like, yep, he is a manga reader, because he had the steel mask, and he also had like the wraps, like how Aizawa has on around his neck, like the scarf with the wraps that can like trap you. And I was like, yep, that person reads the manga. English dub is just fucking sucks. I mean, it's easier to listen to when you're like working and stuff and kind of understand what they're saying. It was cool to hear the actor for Bakugo cuss out those kids. He was like, you stupid nerds, like he said it in his Bakugo voice. I was tempted to go meet him, but again, I am low-key boycotting Funimation because of the whole Vic Mignogna situation, which I'm not going to get into because that's a whole other topic for podcast as well. But I want to say I stand with Vic. Vic did nothing wrong. Even though I don't like the Broly character, the actor himself does not deserve that. So that's all I'm going to say, what I'm going to say. So again, Funimation, I don't hate you guys, but I'm not supporting you guys either, especially when it comes to English dub. So yeah. Anyways, the cosplayers were really good. There were some really good Bakugo characters. A lot of girls dressed up as Bakugo for some reason. There was one girl that I took a photo of and I posted up on the Public Podcast page, and you can see the grenades, how they're made and stuff. A lot of these young kids are getting really good at creating their own costumes. So I was never good at that, and I really wish I was, but I don't have time to invest in that. I would rather use that money and time to invest into my podcast. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, for so many tangents here that I forgot what I was going to say. So the recent chapters of My Hero Academia, chapters 241 to 243, is back to the heroes again. The whole Liberation Army arc is done, so after Shigaraki takes over, they go back to the students at UA. And again, I think I mentioned this in a previous episode where they practice interviews, but then you learn that the teachers are purposely doing a internship again for the younger students, so that they can prepare themselves for like a big battle, or to just practice being heroes with experienced top tier heroes. And so because Gran Torino is busy, he can't train Midoriya, and All Might is out of commission. So he suggested him and Bakugo go train with Todoroki's dad, Endeavor, because Bakugo, his internship was at the Best Genius, who is the hero number 2, or he was hero number 2, but Best Genius was the one who trained Bakugo to teach him how to become a better hero. But he, if you watch the anime, All for One beat the shit out of him. I think he like blew a hole into his heart. He survived, but he's out of commission too. But Todoroki. Let's see, what's his name again? I know his name is Todoroki, but Shoto Todoroki, half and half. He suggests that Midoriya and Bakugo will go train with his dad or go intern with Endeavor, and so they do, and then you see that Endeavor doesn't really want them there because he strictly wants to just train his son, and so he tells them that follow me and stay behind me and learn. And so right at the end of I believe chapter 243, they go on a mission to stop a villain, and Endeavor is trying to not let them be around him, but then you see that the boys, which is Midoriya, Bakugo, and Shoto, they gear up really quickly behind Endeavor and follow him, and then they get ready to fight this villain who is a part of the Liberation Army, and he mentions something about like worshipping Hades. But you see Hawks, who is actually the new number 2 hero, Hawks, who is undercover as well, but no one knows about his work, and I think they're getting the Liberation Army and Shigaraki and all of them is getting suspicious of Hawks, and he's there observing, and then they cut it off. So I personally think Hawks is gonna die for sure. He's gonna be like the what the fuck is that? Oh. I felt the wire from my headphones like creeping on my leg, and I thought that was a spider or something. I was about to literally jump out of my seat. But anyway, yeah, Hawks is undercover and he's playing double agent, and no one knows besides him and like some of the top bosses of the hero group. But I think Dabi, who is one of the main villains that works for Shigaraki, he's onto something, and they're gonna I think they're gonna bust him for sure. That's what's happening in the My Hero Academia manga so far. So speaking of My Hero Academia as well with Dabi, I actually bought the New York Comic Con Dabi, and also the New York Comic Con Funko Pop of Stain, the Hero Killer Stain. I knew those two characters were gonna be fucking variants, and also not variants, but fucking exclusives. And what sucks is that they're not shared exclusives too. I haven't seen anything about them being shared to like Hot Topic or Barnes and Nobles or fucking Box Lunch or something like that. So I bought them both for a total of $70 on eBay. That kicked my ass. In a way I regret it, but I'm like, fuck it, I wanted it. And honestly, I'm only collecting the villains for sure, and the top 10 heroes, and just Midoriya. I have most of Midoriya's forms already, so why not just collect Midoriya? But I am trying to cut back on my Funko Pop collecting for sure. I only really like the ones I really want are just mostly exclusives. But then like I kind of just really think to myself, do I really want this one? And if I do, I buy it. But if not, then I kind of just learn to let it go. And to continue on with the anime theme here, if you haven't heard of this, you're under a rock, because I believe it was earlier this week. But anyway, recently Ash Ketchum won a Pokemon League, and now he is the Pokemon champion after 22 years of hard work and teaching kids that it's okay to take an L. Ash finally deserved that win. I just wish it was with Pikachu. Andrew said the same thing too, where Ash and Pikachu should have won that together. And I think I don't know if this is true. I can't confirm it or not. Or at least I don't want to confirm it. But I believe I read that online that Ash is going to be retired as a character, and then they're going to pick up Pokemon with the new protagonist. So hopefully that's not true, but I can see that happening as well. Speaking of like years of hard work and stuff, Square Enix released more footages of the remake of Final Fantasy VII, and I believe they showed like the gameplay of the new gameplay really, and then you see like the fighting from Aerith, Tifa, the Turks, even the summons of Ifrit and Shiva. That was super dope, and they even mentioned that they have the classic battle mode, which is the turn-based battle or the time-based battle. Turn-based is more like Final Fantasy X. Time-based is where you have to react and act on the time that you're given for your characters. But I would rather still play it like that than the new way, because I believe this new style, it's similar to Final Fantasy 15. I really wish they can just do it more like Kingdom Hearts, where it's like a what is it, free world? I believe that's what it's called. But it looks like that with a bit of Final Fantasy 15. And what I like too is like they did like 12, where you can switch your lead, and so you can go from Cloud switch to like Tifa, and hopefully they have like a gambit system, because that's Final Fantasy XII's gameplay was so underrated. People hate it, but I like the fact that you can run a gambit system, and that way your characters react to you how you play by whatever you set it up as. So that's something I'm looking forward to as well. And that's pretty much the end of this episode. It's again this trilogy that I'm doing. They're shorter episodes for sure. But it's mostly about what I did today. I mean, after the con, I left early. I went there at 9:45, met Bernard Hill, and then went back after I bought my stuff. Came back to the hotel and relaxed for a bit and recharged my phone. Came back around noon, and then I left around 4, and that was the end of my day. And most of the day, I just kind of just chilled in my hotel room, ate Chipotle, double chicken, brown rice, no beans, tomato salsa with corn salsa, a side of whipped cream, or not whipped cream, sour cream. Whipped cream, that'd be too sweet. But recently I've been liking sour cream in my Chipotle bowls now. I think my taste is changing as I'm growing older, which is scaring me, because a lot of the things that I never liked, I'm beginning to like it, like vegetables. But yeah, I still have half of my bowl that I had earlier. It's sitting right there, and I'm probably going to eat it because I don't have a microwave in my room or a fridge, so it's going to go bad. And pretty much this is my last night at the hotel, so I just want to relax and chill for a bit. And right now it's 8:17 p.m. Eastern as I speak. I wanted to get this podcast done as early as I can so I can edit it, upload it, and that way tomorrow I can check out and get ready to leave, because I think tomorrow the panel is at 12 noon for Ben McKenzie. I'm still trying to think of questions to ask him, but I already asked him my question today at his booth. So I'm probably just going to focus more on recording the podcast, or not podcast, but recording his panel for sure. And then after I meet him, I'm going to go early. After I check out, I'm going to check out early, and then go to the convention early and just do one more round of artwork to see if I really want to buy something or meet any last minute guests for sure. But after the panel for sure, I'm going to pay off tip the valet guy and head home back to Michigan, where I'm from. And again, thank you to everyone who's been following Poplug Podcast. I know it gets confusing because it's called Poplug Podcast, but my podcast is called Spoiler Force Podcast. Again, just to refresh your memory on about this podcasting thing that I'm doing. Poplug Podcast started off as me, Andrew, and our buddy Mark Halberg. Poplug Podcast is when the three of us are together. As of now, me and Andrew use Poplug Podcast a little bit more than Mark. Mark has his own family now, or he has his family, so he doesn't really interact on Poplug Podcast as much. For sure, I am doing the most stuff because I have that much free time, and I'm running Spoiler Force Podcast under the Poplug Podcast page. So I understand it could get confusing, but please just know that whenever you see my name that's signed under any post from Poplug Podcast, it's related to Spoiler Force Podcast. And plus, I don't want to lose any of the followers that's been already following us from the beginning. So I'm just going to keep it under Poplug Podcast. And I plan to I guess license Spoiler Force Podcast too. Hopefully one day, gonna try to figure out how that works, and that way I can use that as a brand as well, and to just kind of reinvent myself in a way. And podcasting again has been helping me out so much with just who I am as a person, learning to break out of my shell, to talk to people as well, and to reach out to people and learn how to take L's as I go. But again, if you're listening, next month is lit. Just to remind you, Josh Taub from not Tao, but Taube, Taube. Again, Blue View Cinema. He's with Zhonghu from Zhonghu Beauty Care, and then Van Brooks, who is the content creator, advocate, rapper, comedian. So those are the three big guests for next month. It's going to be week after week. What I'm pushing for is hopefully when I get to Van Brooks that it'll be episode 25, and then that way I can probably take a week or two off to kind of just relax for a bit, because I'm like, lately I've been like really pushing my podcast out, and it may look like I'm not doing much, but pushing out this content is actually like keeping me so busy to where like I'm sacrificing sleep for it. So if you're following me on this journey, please continue to follow my page and follow my content, and subscribe to my podcast on Apple Podcast. Again, Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spoiler Force Podcast. You will always get the updated episode there first. I send all my stuff there first before I even upload on Facebook. Facebook's the last place I upload my podcast on, because it takes forever. If you follow me on Public Podcast, continue to follow us there. That way you can get more of the recent news and more of the posts that I do with like memes and what I do in my life with like the cons and just overall comic book news, manga news, and stuff like that. So this is Spoiler Force episode 20, Batman Day. Thank you so much for listening and for tuning in and keeping up with my content and sharing and liking, and hopefully you continue to do that as well. And if you're listening, I really want to reach out to like Wayne Entertainment, which is the other podcast group, or Hmong podcast group. For sure, I want to collab with them for sure. If any of those guys who are from Facts News listening, I want to collab with you guys. I want to be on the podcast too, or at least on your podcast. This is Spoiler Force Podcast episode 20, September 21st, 2019. Have a good night. If you enjoyed this episode, follow my Instagram at RickyVang92, RICKYVANG92, and follow Popluck Podcast on Facebook.com/PopluckPodcast.